have you back,
Yes, I
Chip.
got a push. Okay. It's good to be back. Thanks for having me.
So, kind of been a big week, huh? With a lot happened.
It's been a big week that we can see.
Yeah,
You follow where I'm at?
there's a lot of stuff that we don't know about, or
One, the God that we serve is active and at work 24/7, 365 days a year.
mm,
We don't always see it, but he's always just as much at work, just as interested in us, just as caring, just as loving. And I didn't say that to be religious. One, it's a fact. But number two, this week is a culmination of 4 years of having time to brood over things, plan on things, and equip both yourself and your team, i.e., President Trump. And what seems like a blitzkrieg is actually just go time for something that's been, planning for quite a while. Lessons learned. I'm not saying anything that the pundits haven't said on TV. I just look better. But a lot of it is exactly what it appears to be, and some of it has much deeper meaning
mm,
and other purposes. Now, it has its primary purpose, of course, talking about the EOs, but it also has secondary and tertiary purposes, which we can get into a little bit later. But yeah, it has been a very visibly busy week. Again, it's just like a duck. What you see on surface has nothing to do with how much is going on behind the scenes.
that's a great
They
analogy.
were talking to is the young man that handles up on the hiring of staff for him. And I believe it was Thursday, no, Wednesday. They hired 1,300 people in one day. What? How did they do that? Because they've been vetting them for 4 years.
hmm
So, at any rate,
No,
your turn.
that's a great way to think about it. I like that way to start out talking about how God's always active, even when it seems like there's not a lot that we see. He's always taking care of everything. But yeah, it is wild to see. Maybe it's not wild. It's really awesome to see someone who's thought about everything he wants to do for 4 years so that when he gets the position, he gets a remarkable amount done right off the bat and kind of set the stage for the next 4 years, I think. I mean, I don't know how many orders there were signed the first day, but at least 20, I think. And he had like a few hours to do
Orders
that.
and memorandums add up to over the first 36 hours. Orders, executive orders, all right, which are numbered now. They haven't always been. And memorandums, I think it was almost 200 in the first 2 days.
Wow. Yeah.
But again, he knew what needed to be fixed from the lessons learned over his first tenure in the White House
Yes.
and the one that he was robbed of for 4 years.
Yep.
He had time to think about what facets, what departments, which people, not just made a mess and stood in the way, but have the most value or stroke for the things that need to be done.
hmm
And so when he comes in, there it is. Now, speaking about the EOs, have you seen some of the pundits? Oh my gosh, this is the executive order president, and we've never seen anything like this.
I've seen that, yeah.
Yeah. How many purely D Democrat presidents have we had?
Quite a few. I don't know how many exactly.
That sounds that sounds like CNN. What the heck? All right, 17. All
Okay.
right. Now there were some presidents that were Whigs and all of that kind of stuff, but
Yeah.
17 that definitely had a D in front of their name. How many strictly Republican R presidents have we had? Again, George Washington, was he Republican, Democrat? He was American. Then we had some Whigs, blah, blah, blah. But how many strictly Republican presidents have we had?
You're gonna have to tell me. I haven't looked at that number.
You're learning. 20.
Hmm.
So 17 Democrats, 20 Republicans. How many executive orders overall from day one, George Washington on out, do you think there have been? Just take a guess.
2000?
Okay, good guess. Good guess. No, but good guess.
Okay.
Do you think George Washington did any executive orders?
I think he did very few, if I remember correctly.
He did 8.
Hmm.
Now, the records, they're a little iffy because a lot of times what we consider an executive order was actually just a letter. The president sent a letter to Congressman so and so. I want to see this change, or I want that name, or I want this person to do this.
Uh,
And those don't always get counted. But according to those who make a living doing this, there are as many as 50,000
wow.
numbered and unnumbered because they weren't numbered for
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
hundred years. And so they go back and they try to say, was that an executive order or was that a memorandum or was that a letter? So as many as perhaps 50,000. But in the numbered executive orders, which do you think had more, Democrats or Republicans?
Democrats.
Why?
Um, they like to expedite their agenda faster. I think Republicans are more set on following the path that the founding fathers set up, which is like thoughtful legislation.
Well stated, not always true.
Okay.
The Democrats with 3 fewer presidents had, let me just get this right. I'm old and I do boring things like actually research stuff. 8,515 executive orders over 17 presidents. How many do you think the Republicans did?
Not sure.
7,347. And that includes the ones that we knew about 2 days ago when I did this from President Trump. Can you still hear me good? I'm out in my shop.
Yeah,
And
you sound great.
okay.
Yeah.
Most of them didn't do much of anything until Abraham Lincoln. He kind of, lit it up. I think he did 48. And then it was mainly Republicans that did the most. Ulysses S. Grant did 217. That's a
Big
little
jump.
bit. That's just a little bit more than Trump's done in his first setting and the ones that we knew about through there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, BO, everybody thinks he did the most. He actually didn't. He did 276.
Hmm.
Obama. He didn't have to. They passed his legislation according to how did you put it? The and the proper channels and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine. But do you know who has the most of any president by almost 10 times?
Biden?
No, Biden did 162. FDR.
Oh,
FDR
FDR.
did 3,721 executive orders in 12 years. FDR averaged 6 executive orders a week for 12 years.
Man.
Yeah. Just a little tidbit on they're good, they're bad, they're indifferent, whatever. They're a tool. And some presidents have made more use of them than others. So when you hear people say, oh my gosh, he's doing everything by fiat, he's, blah, 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 and this is illegal and unconstitutional. FDR didn't think so, and a bunch of others didn't. So just thought I'd point that out as we get started.
No, I think that's a good thing to state. Yeah. Go ahead. You were about to
So
say
let me
something.
ask you, what's the most phenomenal or noteworthy or historic thing that you think took place this week?
Um, I think on a large scale that he won. He got inaugurated after all the persecution that he's gone through. I think
Okay.
that's probably the biggest thing. In his presidency this week, oof, uh, I would say probably either the deportations or probably pulling out of the WHO, I think, for this week.
Okay.
What do you think?
His video bearding of the lion at Davos.
Oh, yeah.
Now it was virtual, but I'll guarantee you, because he was standing right in front of all the ones that tried to ruin him, tried to imprison him, tried to break him, tried to kill him
Mm-hmm.
on Monday, and spoke truth to power right then.
Yeah.
So I know he would do it at Davos too. Matter of fact, he did the last time he was at Davos. But he walked right up to that podium with that jumbotron, and all of the richest of the rich are there. Right after Klaus Schwab had said, you know, we in this room decide the fate of the world, basically.
Yep.
Okay, good to see you, Klaus. You dead wrong. We back, baby, and we
Yeah.
own this thing, baby. And by the way, is that you sitting over there, bud? Bank of America CEO? Good to see you. You're doing a good job. You know all those conservatives that you didn't take care of for all them years? You need to start doing that today. You're wrong. And just whop, 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 whop. Now, was that just arrogance? Absolutely not. That was business.
Mm-hmm.
And that was letting them know that this is how business is going to be done. Not just if you want to do business with the United States, but period. Because despite what you've attempted to do, despite what you've accomplished thus far, we are still the number one economy in the world. We still have more natural resources than any other nation on earth. And we've got the leadership back in the seat. You want to do business worldwide that actually makes you any money? Mind yourselves. I think that is the most critical and crucial thing that he accomplished
Mm.
on the back of all of the other phenomenal things that he did.
Well said. Yeah. Because
Every CEO that, go ahead, brother,
he's not afraid to tell the bad guys they're wrong.
but he doesn't waste any time doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
The point, he said what he needed to say to his enemies behind him in the rotunda,
Mm-hmm.
all right, at the Capitol. I'm back. I'm not scared. I got a scar, but no fear. And they were like, okay. He tells Davos the same thing because it's all one happy crime family. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you think's was pulling the strings?
Oh, yeah. The elites.
It was, yeah. So anyway, but he doesn't waste any time at it. Um, a lot of people, when they go through horrific, life-changing things, and no judgment, I understand it. I struggled with it myself for about 5 years after my own uh, setup. But by God's grace, he taught me, and Donald Trump is just far better at it. And that is, okay, it happened. It hurt. One, it's not going to happen again. And two, I'm not going to waste any time on you because my greatest revenge is success. You know, um, in sales, they tell you the best revenge is to make the sale anyway. Get the sucker's money. Okay. You're just a dadgum salesman. I hate salesmen. You're not worth it. You're dishonest. You know what? You're absolutely right. Beautiful dog you have there. Okay, I guess I'll buy the truck. You still made the sale. You made the money.
Mhm.
Not a way I want to make a living, by the way. They're tougher than I am. I'd bitch slap them and go on with my life.
Mhm.
That's why I work in construction. um,
Easier.
but every executive order had the exact purpose that it was signed for. In other words, the releasing of the J6 hostages was exactly that. Whatever, whichever one it was.
Hmm.
But a lot of them, including that executive order, had a secondary and tertiary reason for being done. The primary is the main one. Get those poor people out of that wrongful situation. Good job, President Trump. But guess what else it did? And it was designed to do.
Uh, I'm not sure.
What is every pundit talking about?
Oh, that he's signing too many orders at once.
But which ones are they harping on and hammering on and focused on myopically?
I'm not sure which specific ones. I know they're doing it generally. I haven't seen which one specifically.
Well, you've got a job right now, so you're not watching it as much as I am. I'm st- I'm in between projects, so I've had time to really focus
Okay.
on this. By the way, I've told you before, I never watch the news. Never. Never listened to the news. One, drove me nuts when I was a kid. My dad listened to KTOK, Oklahoma City News, all day, every day. It doesn't change, Dad. I mean, what are we doing here? So, and then the rest of it hasn't been news. It's been dogma and indoctrination.
Yep.
But the last week has been a lot of fun, by the way. Newsmax, you're doing it right. Fox, eh, outnumbered's pretty good. The five, okay. But Newsmax has really, really turned up their game. They've done good.
They
But
have.
my point on this is um, all the pundits, the J6 committee, the J6, the J6, the J6, the J6, the birthright, birthright,
Oh
birthright,
yeah, yeah.
birthright. They are focused on that like a paleontologist that spends 3 years studying dinosaur poop. They don't see anything else. Guess what's getting done? The business of the people, Tom. Throw the dog a bone, let him gnaw on it while you go out and whoop, whoop, whoop.
Yeah.
That's four-dimensional chess right there. And oh, he's done so much in the first week. Not really. He's doing what California should have been doing, what they did through the 60s when I was there, and that is clear and brush.
Yep.
And there's a lot of brush, but he's clearing it. Now he's going to be planting trees. Now he's going to be, improving land and all that kind of stuff, to make an analogy.
Hmm.
And it's rich. It's dicey.
Hmm.
Um, the Chinese have a saying, may you live in interesting times. These are interesting times. And bless their hearts. And I understand it. When you feel like you've been under the thumb for so long, and that pressure has been removed, everybody wants to do their little Snoopy happy dance. And I get that. But the war's just hit home.
Yep.
It's not over.
Yeah.
Um,
Not at
the
all.
fact that Schumer and Schiff and all the rest of them have not run away. They just, like a snake, they've curled back and they're still ready to strike. So to stay vigilant, to stay faithful to Him, well,
Mhm.
God delivered us and now we can get back to normal. I don't want normal. Normal is how we got to where we are.
Right.
Normal had to do with apathy. Normal had to do with me focusing on making a living and buying trucks and cars and hot rodding and all that kind of stuff and not giving a damn about what's going on anywhere else. And God said, hey, I need you to look around more. I need you to look up more. And I need you to follow me, period.
Hmm.
So the war has just hit home. We've been given a great victory in a battle. But just like, the battles that we won throughout whatever war we've been in, didn't mean the war was over.
Oh, right.
All right. So you win on the cliffs and you still got to go into France. You win in France, you still got to go into Germany. It's not over until it's over. And
Yeah.
so it's a rich time, it's a good time, but it's a time for us to do what our president has done. And that is learn from the lessons or from the things that have happened and implement the things in our own minds, our own hearts, our own hearths, our own families, our own friendships, our own businesses, our own communities,
Hmm.
so that the darkness that almost closed in over us like dirt on a tomb never even gets a shovelful in this country again.
Hmm.
And it's going to require you young ones still reading about, you know, um, our greatest presidents from Washington, our um, war for independence. What do I want to study something 260 some odd years ago? Because they were facing exactly the same thing we are.
Yep.
When we came out with the Declaration of Independence, woohoo, Snoopy Happy Dance. And it was 7 years of hellish fighting before
Yep.
we were able to say, okay. And then we almost fell apart because the Articles of Confederation did not make a nation.
Nope.
And the northern states and the southern states and the richer states and the poorer states and everybody's in fighting and all that kind of stuff. And that's why they brought Washington back. And then we go through all of those hot months and finally get our Constitution. Now, they were able to write, you know, we the people of the United States in order to form a more perfect union. Da, 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 da. But even then, when that lady got to uh, Benjamin Franklin after they came out, sir, what do we have? Madam, a republic, if you can keep it. Ronald Reagan, our liberty is never any more than what?
Oh, wow. I know the quote. I just don't remember the words.
Here's the way that he said it. Freedom is never what?
Isn't it one decision away?
One generation.
Oh, one generation. That's it. Yeah.
All right. So we go through everything boiling up to the Civil War. We go through 4.5 years of hell for the Civil War. 650,000 soldiers. They still don't have a firm number on how many human lives, period. And I'm talking about just dead. I'm not talking about destroyed, altered forever, and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
We learned our lesson. Not really. Not really. What we learned was we don't want war anymore. And while we did have a few little things like the Spanish American War and a few things with Mexico, um, we were like, whatever. Then World War One comes along, and we're like, now that's Europe's problem. No, it was the world's problem. So 1916, we get involved in that. Horrific, horrific. We learned our lessons. No, not really. What we learned from World War One was we really don't want war. We had to be dragged back into it. Now we'll give you munitions, we'll give you machinery, we'll give you material, but you're not getting the blood of our sons.
Hmm.
Got drug into that war. Don't ask me why I think that happened, how it happened. Um, Kennedy isn't the only mess we've got as far as not knowing as a country, but some individuals have a pretty good idea.
Yeah.
My point in that is this: we go through generations of we learned it. But after World War II, we didn't want any more war. Our men had been all over the world. They had seen all kinds of good, bad, horrific things. Boom, boom, boom. And all they wanted was to come home, get that GI Bill, marry Susie Q or Mary Ann or whatever their names were, have 2.6 kids, and the entire family could live quite well off a dad's salary. And I'm talking about a 40-hour week salary. Mom could be home with the kids in a middle class suburban arena with two cars. And when they came out, a color TV. And we lost a generation, which was my generation, actually. Some of the parents didn't buy into that. They were like, I went through this crap. You need to too. You're going to, chop cotton and you're going to chip bricks and you're going to do this and that. And I thank God for that. I didn't then, but I do now. But that's what it means. Every, and I don't know who said it first. It was probably some Assyrian, if not some Cro-Magnon, theologian. But hard times make strong men. Strong men make better times. Better times make weak men. Weak men make bad times. Da, da, da. It's cyclic.
Yes. Yeah.
We're at the point where we did not go through what those in Laos and Cambodia through the Khmer Rouge did. We did not go through what not not Jews alone, but any Slavic, any non-pure German, gypsies
Hmm.
went through in World War II. But what we went through was scary. Did we learn enough to where, at least for another two generations, we don't just have these conversations between two like-minded people. We have these conversations in the way that we treat each other with respect, honor, integrity, expecting respect, honor, integrity, rewarding respect, honor, integrity. That's what merit-based is. Do we have enough learning in us? Have we learned the lessons good enough to do that for at least two more generations? Because the evil never sleeps.
Never.
The 2030 program was actually come up with long before 1913, but 1913 is when they actually began to put it into effect. And
Yep.
then Woodrow Wilson and his ilk, took it further and then blah, blah, blah. But they were always looking 100 years ahead
Yep.
with the culmination in 2030.
Hmm.
What? Yeah. Go ahead and have your national success. Go ahead and Ronald Reagan do his little thing for 8 years. Yeah, yeah, whatever. We're continuing to slither. We're continuing to coil around you slowly. They're a serpent. And then they begin to squeeze. We got squeezed pretty hard.
Yeah.
But have we learned enough to drive snakes out? They say St. Patrick drove all the snakes out of Ireland because he got tired of having to be called and kill them all. So they just drove them off the island. I don't know about all that, but I know the Irish don't get bit in the butt by rattlesnakes.
Mm,
And we need to stop getting bit in the butt by the things that we've allowed as a nation and as individuals. Next.
100%. Oh,
This isn't going the way that you thought, is it?
no, it's been really good. Yeah, I really like that analogy of the snake coiling up around us. That's very apt because it always is a snake. They either, it's like they work for the snake, you know. If they aren't the snake themselves, they work for it.
But
So,
it's not always external, it's also internal.
oh yeah,
Our own desires, our own weaknesses, our own filthy darkness.
yeah.
Or maybe I'm the only person on earth that has that.
I don't think so. I think we all got it. Pretty
But if you
sure.
don't combat that which God told you from the beginning isn't good for you, if you
Yeah.
don't combat it within yourself, you're
Hmm.
definitely not going to be able to do a very good job of fighting it outside.
Oh yeah, absolutely not.
But that's another reason why they wanted the educational system first. They
Hmm.
got the entertainment system first. All
Yep.
right. Well, that's education. They knew that. That's indoctrination.
Oh yeah.
What makes you laugh? What makes you cry? What makes you, but you have to watch it again. And, Scream 2 and 3 and 4 and Halloween 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 841, whatever it's gotten up to. They got the entertainment industry. They got the banking industry,
Yep.
which supplies the money for all the bull.
Yep.
But then they wanted the educational system. Why? From cradle to grave. If we put doubt in the hearts of the children, the parents will not be strong enough to make it go.
Yeah. They have the kids more than the parents do.
So that's what I mean. The war is just coming home because do you think the NEA is just going to give up?
Nope.
Now, if he strikes it, which I believe he will, you know, the pig that squeals is the one that got hit. All right.
Hmm.
You got 40 pigs milling around, that kind of stuff. You throw a rock, you know which one you hit. So as you get close to some of these, i.e., the back to work uh, setup that he put up, which all the rest of us have to be there to work,
Oh yeah.
the ones that throw a fit in the outer concentric circles of the pond, the swamp pond, if you will, that's bullshit. We're not going to put up with that. Okay, those are some more we need to watch out for. I think that he's waiting to see who in some of these other established, entrenched ticks, if you will, start saying, well, he's not going to do that to us. We're not going to put up with that. We're going to fight. You're going to have a hard time fighting when you don't exist anymore, as in the national education, what's it called? Department of Education,
Oh yeah.
DOE, gone, gone. ATF, gone. He can't do that. Jimmy Carter brought it into existence with an executive order. As far as I know, it hasn't been codified. So you get rid of them, but if you got rid of them all at once, did you see the undercover thing that, what is his name? He does a good job. He's starting to put on weight and look like an old man instead of a skinny kid. Um,
James O'Keefe?
yeah,
Yeah.
where that he was a baby faced kid.
Yeah.
No, not James O'Keefe, the one that they were doing. James O'Keefe
Oh.
was acting like he was the one serving up fries and all that kind of stuff while he was
Oh.
recording. And I guess he had one of his operatives date this guy or go on a date with him or whatever. And he
Oh
told
yeah.
her all about how that, oh, we can slow roll this and we form committees that go nowhere and do nothing and waste their time and all that kind of stuff so they don't get anything accomplished. You got to get those embedded ticks out.
Hmm.
Did you see where a lot of the DEI people went in and changed their LinkedIn and their
Yeah.
government profiles?
Uh-huh. To try to be executives.
Yeah. Thank God the internet's forever in some cases. But that's what I'm talking about. But again, he's had 4 years. And you think he hasn't had people for those 4 years? I want you to go through Department of Education, the Department of Energy. I want you to go through the ATF. I want you to go through this, and this. I want you to find these people that are proudly, boldly, screw, America, blah, blah, blah. Then all of a sudden, here's my little American flag. No, we've got all these years recorded.
Yep.
Goodbye. I think that's going to happen. It may happen within the first 180 days. I don't know.
Yeah.
But the war has just hit home. That's all. Um, is it going to get, as they say, kinetic? In other words, Twin Towers again? Possibly. Possibly. Does that mean we've made a mistake? No, that means we've rooted them out more.
Yeah.
But anyway,
It's like a sickness. It's your body has to give all the symptoms of sickness getting rid of the bug, but it's doing the right thing. It just is very painful.
yeah, throwing up ain't no fun, but, you know, I'd rather do that and get it over with.
Yeah. Then it to cause a
And we've
long-term
got
issue.
some of that to go through.
Yeah.
So what next?
Um, well, I thought it was pretty interesting. I don't know if you saw he sent Marco Rubio down to the Panama to start talking about buying that back already. Kind of awesome.
Remember, I said primary, secondary, and tertiary reasons for things.
Hmm. Yeah.
So
I
what
mean,
strikes you so much about it?
well, I think he's really the only one that's really talked about it, which is interesting. And we have a lot of investigative journalists that are going diving into things, but the Panama is one of those things we kind of forget about because it's so far away.
Not us old farts. Made me.
Yeah, maybe
It
for this
made me
sake.
so mad the day that he proudly said, you know, we're going to give this to Panama. Oh man, made me mad. Go ahead.
No, yeah, I mean, I didn't really know much about the history. So when Trump started talking about that we lost 38,000 men making that, I was like, holy smokes. Or that we're I think 70% of the traffic that goes through there, but we have to pay the maintaining fees and all the other stuff, and
Yeah.
China essentially runs it for, and it's like, well, holy smokes, and yeah, why don't we have it back? So I just was excited that he talked about it so loudly before he was inaugurated. And then the second day after Rubio gets confirmed, he's like, first job, go get it back.
Well, start the ball rolling.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of things have been, i.e., the speech at Davos. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, yes, it was walking into the lion's den, grabbing it by the beard and going, poop, poop, poop. But also, most of America did not know that Bank of America was specifically targeting conservatives and their businesses
Yeah,
for
I didn't
debanking.
know.
Well, now it's out in the public forum. All right. Because behind the scenes in the boardrooms and that kind of stuff, okay, yeah. But we'll look, we'll pay a little fee and some fines and that kind of stuff, and everything will be fine. No, it ain't gonna be fine. We're done with this. 65%, or it may be more than that, but 65% of Bank of America's business is with individuals. And I agree with Al Sharpton. Oh my gosh, you agree with Al Sharpton? Yeah, I do. That's part of America. Al Sharpton has every right to tell the people that still think he has a brain left in that little head, you know, don't support these companies. Don't buy anything from these businesses that do this. Okay, don't. All 26 of you. But we need to have the same fortitude. I mean, really,
Hmm.
you know, well, I would boycott Burger King, but that chicken sandwich is on sale next Tuesday. And okay, don't take that one to war. Okay, he doesn't have what it takes.
Yeah.
You have to have, and I'm not talking about mass pressure on the individual. Encourage, state your case.
Hmm.
But if somebody says, no, no, I'm going to keep going to Burger King, they have that right. But when enough people see what, and I'm picking on Burger King, so they don't like their burgers, love the chicken sandwiches, but don't like their burgers. It's the same thing. Well, Bank of America is very convenient for me. See, that's another thing the enemy does. It's
Yeah.
convenient. It's cheap. I'm going to buy this car because it's cheaper. Well, it's made in China and it's full of stuff that tracks you, records you biometrically, built into some of the seats and steering wheels. They know your health.
Yikes.
Screw that. That's why I drive 69 Chevelles, 72 Monte Carlos, 62 old Starfires. Biometric that, dude. I'm trying to be G-rated here. Not doing a very good job, but I'm trying. But we have to have the stamina for things like Bank of America. And with him putting it out there in the world stage,
Yeah.
all right, because we're not the only country that has conservative thinking people.
Oh no,
Our
yeah.
president is absolutely right. Russia ought to care more about Russia than anybody else. China ought to care more about China than anybody else. Venezuela, Slovenia, the United States. Go ahead, care more about your country than you do any other as far as got to take care of us. It makes perfect sense. It's your country.
Yeah.
Not at the expense of other countries, but
Hmm.
there are conservative minded people in other countries that have also been debanked, and they're going, is that why he took away my account down there in Slovenia or Italy or wherever? You have a global coming together of like minded people. That's where the power is. And I think that's one of the reasons why he did it right there in front of God and everybody. And the other is, and I get it, he has fun walking right up to the biggest, baddest dude and going, and them going, oh, oh, thank you. Because they don't dare punch back.
Oh no, yeah. Well, now he just set also the precedent to all the other banks that he's on the watch
And
for
that's
the
very
other
good.
institutions, yeah.
Very good. Citibank, whoever else has engaged in that, okay, Tom or Jason or whatever his name was, the CEO. Well, I'm glad it was your buddy chewed on. Let's go ahead and change the way we do business, at least while Trump's in office. Most companies are reaction based. All right. They are not integrity based.
Mhm.
How dare you say that about us? It's easy. When a Democrat's in, or you think they're more powerful, you make your people put masks on and breathe into this little tube and let you take their temperature. There were some of us that said, not doing it.
Mhm.
Didn't make as much money during that period.
Nope.
Didn't take the shot either. I told you this off camera a few months ago. That was exact when that really came into play. is the exact moment that I found out that I had stage 4 metastatic cancer. And they told me, you're not going to make it. Now, we can buy you some time if you let us, gut you like a fish and pump you full of all of our little pharmacological poisons, but you're not going to make it. Guess what else was going on? Well, you can't come in here if you don't have a mask on. You know what I did?
Can you elaborate for the audience?
There were about 60 people in there, all with masks. All right. And bless their heart, if that's how they want to go, that's all right.
Uh-huh.
I was in there. It was the cancer hospital in Little Rock. I'll just leave it at that. The number one cancer hospital in Little Rock. And that front office bulldog said, you can't come in here without a mask. And they had two armed guards right there.
Armed guards.
And I looked, well, they were all armed back in those days. And I looked around, I said, fine, real loud. Then I'll call KARK television and channel 4 and blah, 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 blah. And I can just go die out in your parking lot. How's that? And everybody's like, holy smokes. And the charge nurse was walking by and she goes, what is this all about? This man won't put a mask on. She goes, come on back with me, Mr. Green.
Uh, that's an awesome story.
I never did wear a mask.
I tried not to. My school was pretty liberal, even though
Yeah.
they're supposed to be conservative, you know. I nearly got expelled for not wearing one.
No, and I don't hold anything against anybody that did to feed their families and that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
but they wouldn't have had to if their companies would have stood up.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I've got a restaurant. I've got a restaurant about 35 miles from here. Man, they smoke it. They awesome. I ain't never going in again. Because when that first come around, I went in to go have some breakfast, and that lady met me at the door, and it wasn't apologetically. It wasn't. I'm sorry, Miss Green, but we're going to get shut down if you don't wear a mask. I might have actually worn a mask for that, but she came to the door and she goes, "Where's your mask?" And I said, "I guess still at Walmart because I ain't bought one." "Well, you're not coming in here." I
Mm.
said, "You're absolutely right." And I've never been back. "Well, you're just a crusty old man." Well, that's a given. That's a given. But at what point do any of you being worldwide, not the audience per se, at what point and over what item are you willing to at least not do business with somebody, even though you like what they do better than anybody else?
Hmm.
And yet, how many of our best have gone on? They're no longer here, male and female, because they said, you are not going any further than this to an enemy,
Yeah.
or you're not shooting any more of my buddies from that sniper's nest or that machine gun nest.
Yeah.
Well, you can't do anything about it. It's 110 yards away over open ground. Well, I'm going to, and they did.
Hmm.
Now they died, but they got that hand grenade or whatever in there, and that nest didn't exist anymore. And hundreds of other soldiers were able to make it a little bit further safely.
Yeah. Mm. No, that's the thing. It's like and you have to. I think COVID was the time a lot of people really saw, oh, this is their colors, this is what they're trying to make us do. And then enough, I think, saw were like, well, we're not part of this and no more. Even though you can say it's just a mask, it's just 6 feet, it's just this, it's just that. Well, enough just it's, and you're in a tyranny. And so you
And
have to
that's something
say
that the
no.
Lord taught us. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, which executive order surprised you the most? Because he's been telling us what he's going to do all year long, but all of last year. But what surprised you?
Um, well, one thing that surprised me, but I wonder if he's also playing that 4D chess with this, is that AI venture, with the Sam
Ding,
Alt.
ding, ding, ding.
And
Yep.
everyone's like saying Trump's betrayed us. He's another one of he's just an elite. He just got in there to get his way. I'm like, I don't think so. That's not the way Trump plays. I think he's setting something together to maybe expose a lot of stuff.
I
That's
hope,
that's my take. But
because that tall old sucker that kind of looks like me, but not near as handsome in the middle.
mhm,
Have you listened to some of his crap?
it's bad, bad.
You know, the police will be on their best behavior because we're going to be recording and monitoring everything and reporting it to the proper people, and the citizens will be on their best behavior. Hey, China too, take that. Yeah, I was like, wait, what? What? No. And I'm
I
still
know.
that way.
Oh
So
yeah,
I don't know.
I know, and everyone's like, "What on earth is he doing? Like, why is he setting this up?" And it's interesting because Sam Altman, from my understanding, was a big anti-Trumper before.
Yeah,
And so I wonder if Trump's just giving him, look at this bait. Here's $500 billion. Here you go.
yeah.
And I think he's setting something up to take him down. I think because the
I don't know.
next day he signed an order saying banning all gain of function virology research. So the very thing COVID was made on. And that was the next day. So I'm like, okay. And when he signed the JFK files and then he said, give this pen to RFK Jr., you're like, well, he really likes RFK Jr., so he's not gonna just make this megalithic industrial medical thing if RFK Jr. is his health HHS secretary.
I don't. Yeah,
And
everything that you just said, I've been thinking.
yeah, and then Elon Musk also is calling out OpenAI and Sam Altman and says, you guys don't have this capacity. It's like, who are you guys joking? So I think and I also wonder if this is what you're saying, like he puts something out there and everyone talks about it, and then he
Mhm.
gets a lot of stuff done. Well, no one's paying attention to that. I wonder if that's what he's doing. He's like, everyone's like talking about this thing. They're like, what is he doing? Like, what's going on here? And he's like, okay, I just sent the military out to start deportations. We got the border closing down. And so now you took away all the media coverage of like, oh, these poor innocent people, Trump's just sending them away. He
Yeah,
took all that highlight and put it on this thing. So all the Democrats are like applauding it. All the Democrats are like, oh, he's one of us. All the Republicans are like, wait, he's not one of us. They're all talking about it, and he just gets stuff done. I think that's what he's doing.
that may be. One of the neat things about it is, and you hit on it. He's directing where the camera goes. No, you need to be looking over here. You need to be looking over here now. And they're like, okay, yeah, we need to look over here. J6, J6, J6. Oh, we need to look over here. AI, AI, AI. But yeah, that one's got me confused a little bit. Um, his leadership, and we'll talk about JD Vance here in a second.
Hmm.
His leadership, seeing it in action, it's brilliant. See, they try to throw a wedge in between him and anybody that's an ally.
Yep.
That's warfare 101.
Hmm.
But well, what about Elon Musk? Tweeting or Xing or whatever it's called these days. Uh, that they don't even have 10 billion. What do you mean 600 billion and blah, 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 blah. The way the president responded to that lets you know three things. One, he saw it from a mile away. He knew that was coming.
Hmm.
Two, he's not worried about it. And three, The answer that he gave did no disservice to anyone. Follow me. Did no disservice to anyone, did not talk out of school about anyone, and just push it away. He goes, yeah, well, no, there's no problem with that. What Elon Musk, tweeted. Well, why not? Blah, 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 blah. And isn't this and isn't that? He goes, look, there's a person on that little trio that he doesn't really care for. And they kept pushing. He finally said, look, there's somebody there. Never talked out of school, never said Sam Altman, even though that's who it is. All
Mhm.
right. So he didn't badmouth Sam. He didn't betray Elon's confidence. And yet he dealt with it. He goes, there's somebody on that little trio you saw behind me that he hates. Ah, I got people I hate. We all do. Next question. That's leadership. That's leadership 404. That's not leadership 101.
Mhm.
That's leadership 404. Now, it's primary, it's basic, but most leaders don't learn it until it's way too late.
Mhm.
All
Yeah.
right. And I know he's messed it up in his younger life. That's how he learned it so bone deep. But thank God, he's wise enough now that that's how he does things.
Mhm.
Well, he offended, the CEO of Bank of America and Klaus Schwab and blah, 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 blah. No, he didn't. He didn't offend them at all. Again, I told before, this is business. And in that level and circle of business, to look them right in the eye and say, here's how the cow eats cabbage, your move. Okay, so no foreplay, huh? No, we're done. That's business.
Yep.
And that business being that transparent and that wasn't even forceful. There was no malice. It was just facts.
Yeah.
Can save millions of lives,
Mhm.
can save tens of millions of livelihoods. How? What they're made of may be just as strong in the evil as his is in the good that God's put in him,
Mhm.
but most of them aren't. That's why they collect together. He doesn't have to collect together. You don't see Trump, having to have 300 of his closest buddies around him all the time. Now he goes and golfs and he goes and eats and he, has confabs with people, but Trump doesn't need anybody else around as far as strengthening him minute by minute, day by day, so that he can go out there and be brave. They, for the most part, can't survive without each other.
Mhm.
If Klaus Schwab was the only evil person left in the world, would he be as evil as he is? I mean, as far as enacting things, probably, probably.
Mhm.
But would all the rest of those? No, no, no. They're tit suckers. Very powerful tit suckers, but they're tit suckers.
Mhm.
And that's why they get together at Davos. Are we still safe in doing this? Is it still okay to do this? Am I still going to get, all my money out of this? Whereas Trump's like, I don't care if anybody's standing with me or not. This is the right thing to do, and we're going to do it.
Mhm.
He builds consensus, but he doesn't need the consensus to have the conviction.
Right. Yeah.
Consensus is how you get things done in a business, but conviction is how you build the consensus to get the things done that actually need to be done.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Like conviction is what you believe first, and then you build on top of that, where it's like if you have the consensus first to have the conviction, it's backwards.
You can't.
Yeah.
You can't. Why? Because it all comes down to the primal needs. All right.
Mm.
Food, water, air. Some would put sex in there, but some affirmation of, value.
Right.
All right. and safety.
Hmm.
How do people storm? Going back to the uh, machine gun nests, I've been reading a lot World War II stuff. Um, how do you do that?
How do you take the nest?
How do you go against everything that says, uh,
Oh,
no, I don't think I'm going to stand up right now and go forward. When they run out of bullets, I'll do that.
yeah.
How do you go against that and charge into the mouth of that kind of hell? Because your conviction. What is your main conviction in that? That what I'm a part of is more important than my comfort or even my personal safety.
Right.
If you don't have the conviction, you're not going to be able to build a consensus that's worth a damn.
Yeah, and that's really probably why the MAGA movement has gotten so big is because he just stated clearly what he says is just common sense. And that's like what he's like, I'm not really what you quote unquote really Republican or really right. It's just what makes
No,
sense. He's like, I want a safe border. I want people to keep their money. I want people to be healthy. And I don't want us to go into wars. I don't want us supporting wars we shouldn't be in. And that's pretty much it. And then all of his actions that look like lots of little actions are pretty much just on that thing. Like, um, I don't know if you had a chance to look at the Agenda 47 on his website, but it had like 21 things. So he said, this is all the stuff that I want to make sure happens. And all the things I do are for these things. A safe border, safe policy, all of that. So, yeah.
when FDR was in, and we started the whole dadgum, uh, what's it called, welfare thing.
Oh, yeah.
Again, a very rough time. My dad was born in 23. When he was 9 years old in 1932, he had to leave school and go get a full-time job because he had, at that point, three younger brothers. His mom was single because his dad wasn't worth a flip. He was a drunk, and a womanizer. So welfare would have been a nice thing, but welfare wasn't anything they had. And
Hmm.
it's not anything that they would accept because of the whole background of my family and that kind of stuff. It just, you make do with your own self and you make things happen. The rest of the world can go kiss its ass. But one of the ways that he did it, FDR, was the fireside chats. All right.
Hmm.
He was very shrewd in that he knew what people were saying around the Cracker Barrel. That was actually a thing. It was a barrel with crackers in it at the general store, and the old men would put a, a chess or a checkerboard on there and play checkers and gripe about the government and talk about prices and weather and that kind of stuff. And did you see Mrs. Smith's slip yesterday? Boy, that was something. It was the 30s. They didn't show as much skin back then. But so he had these fireside chats where he got to get into the parlors, the living rooms, the kitchens of nearly every American weekly. Well, that bonded them together. And when you're bonded together, you don't fight so much when they do something that may seem a little bit odd, i.e., averaging about 6 EOs a week, every week, 52 weeks a year, 12 years. All right, over 3,700. The other thing that happened was people would write letters to him, talking about communication now.
Hmm.
Mr. President, thank you so much, blah, blah, blah. My farm, we lost all of our cows in a freeze recently and blah, blah, blah. Our president knows what people are thinking. He knows what they're saying, what some have had to say under their breath. or they'd lose their job. They'd lose their business. They lost their banking in a lot of ways. So when he brings this out right out of the open and he says, this is, what did he call it?
The
A
golden.
revolution of common sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those words were not chosen at random. What do people say all the time? I don't know why the hell they're doing it this way. It's common sense that you do. Why aren't they putting the water down through California where they have the richest farm ground again and raise the best crops and the best citrus and the best this and that again and have water to fight fires? It's just common sense. 300 million Americans have been saying that over and over and over again for the last 4 years. He knows that. And so now it's common sense. And they're like, well, that EO, it makes sense. That EO makes sense. You get the American public on your side. Schiff, Schumer, the rest of them, they'll never stop being snakes, but they will stop hissing quite so loud within the next 6 months.
Definitely. Yeah.
One reason is nobody's going to listen to them.
Yeah. What do they have to offer? How much?
Another reason is they might be in prison.
True.
Have they committed treason? Absolutely. How do you know that? Look at the partnerships that they've put together. Look at it. You go in the background, you can find it.
Yeah. Hmm.
But now's not the time to fight that.
Hmm.
You got a pink bathroom in a 26 room house, and it's on the third floor with a guest and a mother-in-law that you don't like. Are you going to spend all your money the first week repainting that bathroom? No,
Hmm.
it needs to be repainted, but that old woman can just deal with it for a while. In the same way, how come he didn't just come in and show all the videos and the tapes and the audio recordings of these people being horrific and not just treasonous, but horrific, some of them?
Yeah.
How come the Epstein files weren't the very first thing that he opened up? Because we need our breath back first. We need firm ground under our feet first. And
Yeah.
then, if and as all of that comes out, we can be outraged and equipped instead of shattered, broken, and shell shocked.
Yeah. That's
Does
very
that make
well
sense?
said. No, it makes a lot of sense because people are asking him with why he didn't release everything his first term, and he said the time wasn't right, which was interesting.
The people wouldn't have believed it.
Yeah, they wouldn't have believed it, and then they probably would have written it off as like it's not that big of a deal. And then 4 years, you see all the stuff we're uncovering, and we're like, oh, holy smokes, like how bad really is it? And Trump was kind of like the guy to like say fake news. People like, fake news? How dare you say such a thing? And he's like, I can tell you personally from stories of my own life how it's fake. So if they're saying fake news about me, they're telling you fake news about everything else. And then they're like, oh. And then, so he discredited the media, one of the main weapons the left or the bad guys have against us. And then people would start distrusting the media, so then they look on their own. And when enough people are looking on their own, they start fighting enough things. And then he's like, okay, now you're ready for the truth. Because I have friends, like, if I tell them, something simple, that fluoride in the water lowers your IQ, they're like, how dare you say such a thing? Like, it's a neurotoxin. It's what it does. But then they're like, but
You know its original purpose, right? Why it was introduced first
it's to whiten your
and
teeth.
where? No.
Oh,
Where was it used first?
oh, I don't know the first use. No.
Germans.
Oh, I didn't know that. Huh. Yeah, so if you say something like that, they'll be like, you're crazy, you're wild, or everything. So you have to like show them little bits at a time until you can get them to an Alex Jones level of like, okay, this is how bad it really is. And then they're
Yeah.
like, Oh no, but then sometimes I go too far, and then I think the term is called black pill when people are so there's no hope, there's no better, there's nothing. But it's like I think Trump understands that you can give people enough to get them to latch onto an idea, and then once they start accepting enough, then you can give them bigger problems, and then they can handle it and figure it out, like you're saying. But yeah, I think he's pretty smart,
I think God is using him in very smart ways.
even better
I'm
said.
not trying to take away from Donald Trump, but
I think he credits a lot or most of it to him too.
and that's another thing that's taking place. Um, you know, the college athletes and pro athletes. I first want to say, all praise, glory, and honor to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and da 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 da. I mean, that's happening more and more. And was it? I don't watch college football anymore.
Me neither.
When Barry Switzer left, OU started to suck, and I just quit watching. Um, I'm from Oklahoma, so was it South Dakota that lost the national championship or whatever going into the national championship? Well, anyway,
Hmm.
they had the losing quarterback on. Well, how does it feel? And shut up. How do you think it feels? It ain't fun. But they brought him in. I mean, he still had his helmet, he sweaty head. He was fresh off the field. How's it feel? And blah blah blah. He goes first. I want to say how thankful I am and what an honor it has been to be able to play this game. And my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for giving me the talent and the opportunity and the team that I have. And I'm glad that we lost to a team of godly men. You didn't hear that?
No.
I'm glad we lost to a team of godly men that are going to give him the glory.
Wow.
My point in all of that is things are being said across a broader and broader and broader spectrum
Hmm.
by people that you wouldn't have thought would. Well, this is unique. No, this is basic. This is how God does it. The first apostles were not Pharisees from Jerusalem University. They were stinky fishermen, cheating tax collectors, Simon the Zealot that wanted to kill absolutely everybody that didn't agree with him. Why did he do that? Because the message is the point, not the messenger. We have this treasure in jars of clay, Paul said, that the all surpassing greatness can be seen clearly by everybody, basically, to come from God.
Hmm.
So he's speaking through young sports figures. He's now speaking through a president. Newsmax, they talk about God all the time.
Hmm.
Um, he's giving people every opportunity to turn their gaze back to him. And that's a powerful thing
It really is.
because preachers aren't doing their damn job.
Mm. Yeah, I was.
Are there preachers that are doing it? Absolutely.
Oh, sure.
You know,
Yeah.
but are they on the whole? Heck no. They either going to harp and rave and rant on their particular, doctrine of the Bible. We're the only ones going to heaven because we do it right. Shut up. Shut up. All I hear about is that. I don't hear about Jesus, except that Jesus
Yeah.
agrees. We're the only ones going to heaven because we're doing it right. And the point is, Jesus is the point.
Right. Mhm.
And more people, are coming from the apathy or the agnosticism or the burnt. People that were born and raised in a church that wanted to be a part of God. And because of what happened in the church, finally said, you know what, piss on all of it. I'm done. But God says, I'm not done with you.
Mhm.
And they're coming back to going, oh, you mean it is a relationship and not a religion? I don't have to be in that building to be your son or daughter? No, I never said you did. Well, they said, they are they. I'm the one that matters. And that's happening more and more.
I mean, it was pretty amazing when Trump said on his inaugural speech, he said that God saved me from a bullet for one reason, and I think that's to make our country great again. So it's pretty awesome to like he pretty much gave all the credit to God. He's like
Yeah.
he's the one who put me here. And I think yeah, it's like my dad always told me that fashion always follows the first lady. So usually what the first lady wears, Americans kind of. So I think that's kind of like the same thing with Trump. He's like, look at God first, you know. Did you hear that one joke about Trump when people said he's the most famous person alive and he said he isn't? Did you hear about this joke?
Huh.
So one rally, he said that his friend told him the other day, he's like, you know, Trump, I really think you're the most famous guy alive. Like, there's no one more famous than you. It's like, oh no. He's like, there's people more famous than me. It's like, who? It's like Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
He's like,
That's
it's pretty funny, you know. He's like,
that's a fact.
yeah, but
So what do you think the next 30 days hold?
oof. uh, I think the next 30 days are probably going to be a lot of focus on the economy, um, and
What
getting,
actual actions? What
oh,
events? What
what
do you think is
actions?
going to happen?
Well, I think he's probably gonna be talking to a lot of companies to bring manufacturing back, would be my guess. Um, that'd be my guess. Because he's going out to North Carolina this week, and he already, did you see that? There was like $2 billion going to illegal immigrants or something like that, and is able to divert all of that to North Carolina. So he's going out there this week, and then,
He's already there. He's there right now.
oh, he's there right now. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
As a matter of fact, 12:38 Central Time. He may be lifting off right now to go to Los Angeles, but he's been there for about 2 hours.
Wow. Okay. So
Did you know JD Vance was there 2 days ago?
I didn't know.
See what I mean? And see what you said about, hey, watch this hand while I'd go do things with this hand. Yeah,
Hmm.
JD Vance was there 2 days ago, and that's when the $2 billion that FEMA was using for illegals
Oh, it was FEMA.
got switched over. And JD Vance went there in person, and they had teams going around saying, not only are you not going to be kicked out of your hotel rooms in the middle of the night, that's how they did it. Midnight, they would kick them out. They'd always wait till midnight and kick them out.
Hmm.
But they're going into furnished apartments until they get their houses built.
Wow. Good job.
Now, terrible thing happened, North Carolina. Terrible thing happened in the fires.
Hmm.
How much is man made on both sides? Different discussion for a different day.
Hmm.
But I do know this: what we have as a nation is a phenomenal opportunity to come together, number one, as a nation. Number two, build and make money. The infrastructure in North Carolina is shot.
Yeah.
The Army Corps of Engineer needs to come back. They need to rebuild the bridges and the viaducts and the highways and that kind of stuff. But go in with your construction company, with your paving company, with your HVAC company, and in a concerted effort, we're going to start uh, in these mountain villages and build down while these are working down around Asheville and building up. And we're going to meet in the middle, just like they did with the Transcontinental Railroad. All right. And within 12 months, the whole area can be built back. Companies will have, made good money doing it.
Hmm.
It's good PR for them.
Hmm.
because these are great people. Um, you may even find out that you don't like living in Oklahoma City anymore. I'm talking about companies from all over the nation
Yeah.
going there.
Hmm.
Here are the rates. I'm talking about Trump getting in there and saying, here are the rates. You're not going to charge, you know, $85 a foot and you charge $200 a foot. You know, I'm talking about square foot of building, blah, blah, blah.
Right, right.
Here are the rates. You want to be a part of it? There it is. If you don't, stay where you're at. I think there'll be enough companies that'll say, heck yeah, let me in on it.
Hmm.
You may even find out that you like living around Asheville, North Carolina and leave the flatlands or whatever. But the point is, in 12 months, we can have that place built back.
Yeah, for sure.
And same thing with California. But I completely agree. And the people do have a voice. That's another thing. The people of California have a voice. They don't have to keep putting up with that. They can do a recall on him. And I don't mean in 6 months, I mean next week. Get together, 350,000, 500,000, whatever, and do a recall vote on the mayor, on the governor, on the senators that did this, that kind of stuff, and get back to taking care of yourselves.
Hmm.
Now, what takes place, I don't know.
Yeah.
But when I was there in the 60s and even the early 70s, California didn't need no help. California was sending people, not just long haired eggheads, but I mean engineers and builders and stuff. Their unions were phenomenal with world class craftsmen in every sector. Uh, and they took care of things. One, they kept the brush out.
Hmm.
They've always had fires, but
Always.
the fire went, and it was done. Okay. They did controlled burns. I stayed outside of San Bernardino, Yucaipa, that area, Big Bear Lodge. All right. The San Bernardino Mountains, back in the 60s and early 70s, they had orange groves all over the place and little rancheras with super expensive horses and the beginnings of plastic wives and that kind of stuff. But they took care of themselves. They kept the brush where it was. Everybody had irrigation and they didn't need anybody's help, didn't want anybody's help. They can get back to that again.
Hmm.
But it's kind of like an 18-year-old that mom and dad have paid for insurance, car, and everything else. And all of a sudden they say, bye.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Go get a job like everybody else. It is hard. It's hard to get back into that mindset or get to that mindset that your grandparents had.
Yep.
I don't want a governor that, you know, does this, and this. I want one that stays the hell out of my way.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to build a dealership. I'm going to build a taco stand. And then I'm going to have 5 taco stands. And then I'm going to have 2 Mexican restaurants with the best food you've ever had in your life. And people are going to drive up from San Diego and all the way from Palm Springs just to eat my food. Dream, build,
Yeah.
do it. I'll fly out and eat instead of, you know, who's going to pay for this? They're finding out nobody.
Nope.
Well, they are. They're paying for
Yeah.
their own destruction instead of paying into something that keeps them built.
Yeah.
That's what evil does. It makes you pay for your own destruction.
That's very well said. Hmm. Yeah, it asks everything of you, and in return, it gives you your death. Yeah. Oof. Have you
All right, go ahead.
I just was curious. Um, you like reading books, right? Or some of them?
When I'm not eating covers.
Okay. Um, there's a book you might like to take a look at. It's called We Who Wrestle with God with by Jordan Peterson. Just came out in November.
Okay.
I've been listening to it, and he's been breaking down the Genesis. He's going through Genesis. He's like he's saying, why are these stories like the Genesis story and then the other stories in history that have very similar tones and themes? Why do they stay around for thousands of years? And he said, and it's not like the Bible is a very high academic read. He said, it's, you know, third, fifth grade level tops, writing level. But he said very, very powerful stories. And so he's been breaking down like what does it mean to actually follow God and what does it mean not to? And then what are the consequences? So he spends a lot of time on Cain and Abel. I'm just like, why was Abel good? Why was Cain bad? And then why did God punish him and all these things? And it's very interesting. I would say it's probably some of his best thoughts yet. And I thought you would really like to take a look at it. But
I will. I will take a look at it.
he talks about that destruction of like, he said, when you invite evil in, this is what it will do to you. And yeah, it's good.
And God warned Cain with the same level and depth of love that Abel listened to. God gave the instruction, if you want to sacrifice to me, this is what I require. This is how I require it be done.
Yep.
Well, that's not in the Bible. Sure it is. The results are there, which gives you a window to the backstory.
Right.
Okay. And the window, the story is, they brought their offering to God. You know this. And God rejected Cain's offering. Well, how could he reject an offering unless he had told Cain what he required for it to be acceptable?
Right.
That would make him an arbitrary God, which he's not.
Hmm.
So he told Cain and Abel both, this is what I require if you're going to sacrifice to me. Abel said, okay. Now, there's been a big push for, I don't call this gospel or scientific, but I think at least 60 years, maybe more, as far as being mainstream. Now, it's always been around, but as far as being mainstream, you know, well, the Lord gave me this gift. Okay, well, he didn't give you much of it because you suck in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
No, but why are you a song leader? Well, that's my gift from God. Is it? Was that the point of making you so that you could be a song leader at, the first church to look at who I am? Or he made me an orator. Yeah, not so much. Even if he did, is that why you're here? Cain was a man of the field, right? Grew crops, right?
Yep.
Abel was a shepherd. He was with the flocks. Am I correct?
Yep.
That's not a trick question. I'm asking because
Oh
it's
no,
been a
yeah,
while
yeah.
since I've read
Yeah,
that.
yeah, that's right. That's right.
Abel's was acceptable to God because he was a shepherd. Now, Abel's was accepted by God because he did what God asked. What's my point? Maybe what he asked for was a blood offering. Cain worked his butt off in the fields and probably grew the best crops in the world. God didn't ask for a grain offering. He asked for a blood sacrifice. Well, to hell with that. I'm going to give him the best of what I do, my gift, but that's what he's going to
Uh,
get.
mm,
I've done it, and I'm not the only one that's done that. You see, God did give me the gift of gab. Now, I may be slipping at it, and this may not go down as one of our best talks. It's kind of meandered a bit. But I have spoken and been given standing ovations before Fortune 100 C-suite people, not at a TED talk, at their own, corporate stuff. I've spoken to 12,000 people at a time. Doesn't scare me a bit. I'm good at it. That's my gift to God. No, no. And he took away that opportunity for me to do because I did it for 12 years. I tried for two more. I say 14 years as a missionary. 2 years was just me hammering any church that had let me in because, oh, that's my gift. That's what I'm supposed to be doing, preaching the gospel the way that I believe the gospel ought to be preached. And God said, no, not so much. Joseph was raised to be Abraham's favorite son, or excuse me, Jacob's favorite son,
Yep.
right?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to lead the entire group of your brethren someday. All of these tents, all of these fat women, and all of the good looking ones, and all of your brothers, and all of the sheep and the goats and the camels are all going to be yours because you're going to be the boss. No, I'm going to throw you in a pit. Well, your brothers are going to throw you in a pit. I'm going to have you sold into slavery by the Midianites. I'm going to have an Egyptian that doesn't give a damn about you buy you. Then I'm going to be with you, and you're going to do a phenomenal job of being a slave. This sucks. And then he rises in prominence in Potiphar's house. And I'll tell you, I can tell you beyond a shadow of a doubt, he had pretty nice digs. Now, he was still a slave, but he had a nice apartment. He had servants himself. He had all the grapes he wanted to eat, whatever they did back in those days. The Bible says that Potiphar kept absolutely nothing from him except his wife. I wouldn't want that wench anyway. But anyway, so he's young, he's single, he's virile, he's muscular. The Bible says, he was extremely handsome, good to look at. She got hot and panty over it, which means all the hormones of a young man were there with no way to do anything about it. Rightfully, the devil gives him an opportunity wrongfully, and he had enough character, enough core integrity that he said, how can I sin against my God and my master and do such a thing? For he has held nothing from me, nothing except you. He could drive his chariot. He could ride his favorite horse. What was Joseph's gift? Being the favorite son, coat of many colors. No, what Joseph's gift was surrendering to God. The Bible says he was with him. He does the right thing. He tells her no. He winds up in prison. And I told you this last time. The very first verse of the next chapter after it says, and Potiphar threw him into prison. The very first verse of the next chapter. And in prison, the Lord was with him. And I'm like, well, that's bullshit. If that's the way this works, I'm not sure it's that fun to have you with me. Joseph's gift to God was to surrender. So he did the right thing in prison. And he did such a good job that the head of the prison did the same thing Potiphar did. Joseph, you run the prison, whatever you say. When we need to buy grain, you tell me, I'll buy it. When we need new bed sheets, you tell me, we'll do it. We need to move this prisoner over here because he's not getting along and somebody's going to get killed. You tell me, I'll do it. That's not a lot of fun, Tom. But the Bible was right. God was with him and he rose to prominence. So in other words, he wasn't sleeping on filthy, nasty straw with bed bugs like the other prisoners. He was in the best situation of a bad situation twice. What was Joseph's gift to God? Surrender. Pharaoh has his dreams. God's been preparing Joseph all along. Pharaoh has his dreams. And you know what happened with the baker and the wine tester and that kind of stuff. Then the wine tester forgot Joseph for 2 years. 2 years. He keeps doing the right thing, and it doesn't do any damn good.
Mm.
Sound familiar?
Oh yeah.
Feel familiar?
Hmm.
See what I meant about conviction a while back? If you
Yeah.
don't have the core conviction, nothing's going to last. Joseph had a core conviction that I will be faithful to my God no matter what happens or doesn't happen. So Pharaoh has his dream, the whole thing set up, blah, blah, blah. You know the whole story. Joseph, the wine taster, finally says, "Oh, I forgot. There's this guy in prison that knows how to read dreams. Well, go get him." They wash him real quick, then comb his hair real quick, put him in better clothes real quick, march him out in front of Pharaoh. And he's like, "Okay, I have no idea what I'm doing here, but okay." He interprets the dream and he's put second in charge. Pharaoh trusts him with absolutely everything, maybe even giving him a night with the queen if he wanted it. I don't know how they operated back in those days, but he gave him a wife. Finally got that. And he does all of that for 7 years, running the country during the time of feast, because he told him there would be 7 years of plenty and 7 years of famine. Got them all prepared. Then they had the famine. The second year of the famine is when his brothers come because they're starving to death out there in the desert. What was Joseph's gift to God? Surrender. What came of that? Being thrown in a well, being sold into slavery, doing the right thing, being elevated, and then being knocked down even further into prison for doing the right thing, rising as high as he could in that, doing the right thing, being brought before Pharaoh, brought out, and he's the second in command of at that time. I don't know if it was bigger than China's empire, but it was considered the most powerful in its area. That's not what he did, Tom. By saving his nasty brothers, including Judah, we have a little baby born in Bethlehem 3,500 years later called Jesus. What was his gift to God? Surrender. What was Daniel's gift to God? Born a nobleman. He was one of the noblemen, if not one of the royalty of Israel, of Judah. And then Nebuchadnezzar comes and blows the whole thing up, marches him naked for 900 miles back to Babylon. What was his gift to God then? He can't be a royal.
Yeah.
His gift to God was surrender. And the story gets repeated over and over and over again. I haven't forgotten what you said about Jordan Peterson and all that kind of stuff.
No, this is
What
great.
evil does is in every single life, it says, you deserve better than this.
Mm.
That's all it has to do.
Wow.
God promised Abraham that his descendants would be as numerous as the sands of the sea and the stars of the sky when he was 70. When he was 70, he went another 29 years. No baby. So they got in a hurry and they said, we're going to help God. We believe the promise, but he's a little slow. So here, take this handmaiden, go make a baby. Okay, no problem. And guys never have a problem with that kind of stuff. I'm just being honest. All right.
Their biggest
So he
downfall.
has one. So he has one. Yeah, no, that wasn't such a good idea. So they have the son. Okay, now everything's good. How old was Isaac when the Lord came to Abraham and said, Abraham, I want you to sacrifice Isaac to me?
I
Don't
think he
know.
was a
Was he
teen. Wow.
was he 12? Was he 15? I don't know. He was old enough to know something's weird here. That's my point.
Yeah.
He was also old enough that his dad, who had longed for him his whole life, loved him every second of his life, was so entwined heart to heart with the boy, that when he heard that, what was Abraham's gift to God? It wasn't the sacrifice of Isaac. It was the surrender of everything that he held dear.
Mm.
And that story is repeated over and over and over and over again, even to today. So what is my gift to God, Tom? The same thing, surrender. I was mad at God for what had happened to me, even while I was telling people about him and living a good life. Flawless? No, not at all. But doing my best to be what he wanted me to be. And horrific things happened. And I was mad when I at least couldn't hang on to that one thing I wanted to do, which was preach. And then I went in for money, and I made money. I made money. And then that got taken away. And I finally surrendered one day, and I said, okay, because I would put conditions. If you'll just do this, I'll do that. If you let me make $1 million, I'll give you 500,000 of it. That's a lot more than 10%, God. If you do this, I'll do that. And the day that I finally said, whatever it is you want to happen, your will be done. It's almost like I could, hear the cushion on the throne go as he stood up and go, oh, now you finally get it. The next day, I get a phone call from a bow hunting buddy. And I've mentioned this before. And he said, you found work yet? And I said, no. And he said, well, you know men and you know deadly situations, but you don't know anything about my industry. Well, that made me mad. I said, what the hell has that got to do with anything? And he goes, means I need you in Beatrice, Nebraska in a couple of weeks, sucker. Yes, sir. So I went from boardrooms to refineries. I went from people in at least $700 suits and sometimes $3,000 and $5,000 suits to FR outfits that were almost as expensive. That crap's expensive and hot. Uh,
Sure looks a lot
but
better though.
also, yeah, but I also went from, oh, Mr. Green, we're so glad you're here. No, you're not. I heard you bitching about me over at the water cooler. Don't do this. To, hey, sucker, I don't like this. Okay, now I know where you stand. By giving him the gift of surrender, I have lived a richer life. Not financially, although by his grace I make good money. Not financially. Physically, it's been, woof. I mean, I'm going to be 65 in about a month and a half. And it's not that much fun being in 112-degree weather, in FRs with the shirt tucked in, because some plants make you do that, or in 28 below zero in Mandan, North Dakota with 40-mile-an-hour winds and so on and so forth. But the richest thing in the world is knowing that he's in control of what happens to me. I have to relearn that lesson from time to time. I'm in between projects right now. The last one ended up right 2 days before Thanksgiving, and I haven't found another one yet. Not really looking that hard in December, but I'm starting to now. But I know that he loves me as much today as he did the day that he saved me, the day that he saved my life. There's about 4 occasions where I should have been dead or in a doornail, and I'm still here. That's rich.
Yeah.
What's this got to do with this last week? Regardless of what happens with Trump, regardless of what happens with this country, I owe God one thing, and that is faithful surrender. And that his name is the one that I lift up. His glory is what I point to, and his honor is what I give way to.
Amen.
I'm a published author. I'm a damn good photographer. I'm handsome as hell. Glib as can be. So what? If Trump is successful and I live the rest of my life, making good money and paying no taxes because they do away with the IRS, that's fine. But if God forbid the enemy gets to him and we fall right back apart as a nation, I've got the same job, surrender.
Yep.
I've got the same opportunity, stand. And I've got the same inheritance forever with him. It cannot be robbed. It cannot be diminished. It can't even be smudged. That's a pretty good life.
It really is.
What do you think?
I think that's the best interpretation of the Joseph story that I've heard because I think it's really interesting when you put dates on things. So I was listening to a talk the other day, and it's a young business guy, and he was getting frustrated.
Is it that
And
bearded kid you like?
yeah,
That dark bearded kid?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, he was telling a story. He was like, he was saying, like when he was starting out that he wasn't getting as far as he wanted to and things. And his dad sat down with him and said, well, to give you some perspective, so his dad's from the Middle East somewhere, I forget which country, and his dad
Okay.
went to France to learn medical school. He didn't know French, failed the first year. I said, okay, tried a second time, failed again. He's like, I don't know if this is for me. And his friend said, no, you got it. You'll figure it out. You're a smart guy. Passed, and then um, something happened, and they lost everything in their home country. So he comes over to the U.S., starts a job. I think he's in a hospital, but he's just like the running boy. So he's like the errand guy, errand boy. So he actually became a surgeon in school. He got his degree and everything, but he couldn't be accepted until he got licensed to practice in the U.S. So
Yeah.
he was the guy that could be performing the surgery, but he was giving the doctor all the tools. And so finally, I think after 9 years, he got his surgeon job or something from like when he started. And then he
Hmm.
started, and then after 10 years, started his own practice. And then finally, by the time he's 50, he's one of those guys, oh, he made it, he's a really successful guy and everything. So he told his son Alex, he's like, look, most people in that 7, 12 year period would have been like, you're flat out broke, you got nothing, your wife isn't very rich, like, what's wrong with you? It's like nothing. Just takes a bit of time. So when you
Dead
put
on.
like the story of like Joseph saying he was in there for however many years, well, that didn't look like it panned out. He was sold into slavery. That didn't pan out. The whole time he's staying faithful though, but during those years, those periods where, like it's 10:30 on Tuesday morning and you're like, well, shoot, how long is this going to last? You
Hmm.
have to have that perspective, like this is going to be a while.
Hmm.
And even for my own dad, he started his business out of college and he was running it for 8 years before he got married.
Hmm.
And so for me, I'm like, what's wrong with me? I graduated 4 years ago. I'm not wealthy yet. What's wrong? It's like, well, I don't know. Just
Not a
gotta
thing.
keep grinding. So,
You are a part of an undervalued, undersold, overbitched at, by far, treasure of a generation. Not in every generation is a treasure. Now, there are treasures in every generation, but not every generation is a treasure. All right.
that's well said. Yeah.
But your generation is, because against all odds, with no help from the educational system, the entertainment system, or your government for the most part, you have, and there's freaky long haired hippie people in every generation. That's just part of it. Some people don't like to take a bath. Um, as long as you braid your armpits, you're good. But you as a generation have started, and many like you have come full blown. What the hell were you thinking, mom and dad?
Say more.
And you're, no, you, as a generation, now, not every single
Oh,
one
oh,
of
I
you, but
see
as a
what, yeah,
generation, you've gone, what? No, no, abortion's not cool. No, sitting on my ass and sucking the government tit is not anything I want to be a part of. Now, I'm going to go get an education, and I don't mean at a college. I'm going to go get an education. I'm going to go to a trade school, or I'm going to get paid to learn. Always get paid to learn. Be a helper somewhere and get paid 18, $17 an hour. Watch everything, learn everything. Remind me to talk about JD Vance right after this because that's what I wanted to get to. Um, until you can go in as an entry level carpenter, boilermaker, fitter, and then single A, and then double A, making $58 an hour and $175 a day per diem, driving a jacked up dipstick diesel truck and all that kind of junk. But you are a treasure of a generation because of your integrity, because of your character. Without the eight, now you've had your parents and grandparents and others. I know that. But a lot of them haven't. They just
yeah,
finally looked around and said, hey, wait, Matrix, I don't want to be a part of this anymore.
yeah,
And that's not easy. I had to do that. You know, my growing up years, I was in a little podunk town where, you know, you had five teeth, you were running the town. And why don't you just act like the rest of us? Because I don't want to sit around here like the rest of you and get fat. That's why. And it wasn't easy. I left home when I was 13. I wouldn't trade a single thing, except I wouldn't have done some of the horrific things I've done in my life, but that's a part of what God used to make me who I am, too.
hmm,
So there's nothing wrong with it. You're a fine young man. And if you're rich in integrity and character and can learn the secret of being content without being complacent, there's a vast difference.
yeah. That's a good
Well, that means
distinction.
I can just, I'm happy with the way things are. That's not contentment. Contentment is at this moment with this 110-year-old cup, and my coffee's not as hot as I'd like it, but I'm talking to a good young friend. I'm content,
Hmm.
but I'm not complacent.
You
There's things
still,
I want to do,
right.
things I want to accomplish, things I'm going to do, unless or until God says, no, heart attack, you're done. Okay, I win. I go home.
Yeah.
Now, have you guys had any conversations about JD Vance?
No.
Most everybody's focused on Trump,
Hmm.
and that's fine. But some of the people that I deal with, you know, they were talking about the Democrats are in disarray. There is no leadership, and what about camel hair, you know, Harris and blah blah blah. Is he going to run for governor? And they have shown themselves to be such an abject failure to a man and woman, that no reasonable human being, Democrat, Republican, Independent, or Martian here on, you know, a green card visa. See what I did there? Green card
Yeah.
Martian. Um,
Alright.
dad jokes.
Yep.
Can't help it. Um, would vote for him. That's a part of that wording that President Trump does. Common sense revolution. All right. People are starting to think for themselves. But they say, well, you know, who's going to lead the Democrat Party? And then one of them popped up and said, well, who we got after Trump? Well, what about JD Vance? No, JD, you know, he'll be a fine vice president and that kind of stuff. He's not going to stab the president in the back. He's not going to embarrass him too bad. But no, he don't, you know, he's too green and that kind of stuff. And then one of the pundits, I think it was Newsmax, he did a good job this morning. He said, To use a football reference, NFL, you've got a second string quarterback. He never sees any airtime, never sees any play in a game. But he sits there for 4 years. And if he's worth his salt, he's good enough to be number two. That that ain't easy. If you're good enough to be number two in the world for your team in a professional sport, you're pretty stout. But for 4 years, you get to sit there and you get to watch a Joe Montana,
Mm-hmm.
a Jim McMahon. Well, you're naming old guys. Yeah, because I don't think the new ones are worth a flip. Anyway, um, Brett Favre, maybe. But Joe Montana, he called his own plays and that kind of stuff. Don't get me started. But you get to sit there for 4 years on the sideline and you watch your first string quarterback, who's one of the best in the world. How does he do the plays? How does he treat the other team? How does he treat those in the huddle on his own team? How does he respond to this action? How does he handle an interception? How does he handle a fumble? How does he recover from this? How does he do this, and this? And you study that for 4 years.
I'm gonna figure some things out.
Then when you get the call, hey, come on, we need you to do it. You may not do it exactly like Joe Montana did it. You may not do it exactly like Jim McMahon did it. I'm saying Jim McMahon. I don't know if that was his name or not. Chicago Bears, goofy looking little sucker, had beaver teeth, weird hair. But anyway, he looked like a little kid with a big body, but he was a good quarterback. I think J.D. Vance brings everything to the table to be a phenomenal president someday. Now, will that be in 4 years? I don't know. But I know this. He is not awestruck. That's a terrible thing to be, because when you're awestruck, you're so busy going, that you're not learning anything.
Yeah.
So he's not awestruck by the president, but he admires him. He respects him. Those are two different things. All right. The leaders at Davos respect Trump. They do not admire him.
Mm-mm.
When you admire and respect, you are a sponge. You start absorbing all of this. And I think J.D. Vance is. And I think that Donald Trump is wise enough and good enough that that's what he's going to do. He's going to keep him right there next to him. Hey, come here. I'm fixing to work this deal out. What do you think? Well, I don't know. Well, here's why I'm doing this, and here's what I'm going to do here, and here's how that guy's going to respond, and here's why I'm doing that with this guy, and da, da, da. He's going to show him the ropes, because Trump is building a legacy, not just in the edicts, the EOs, and the legislation and the economy that he leaves after 4 years, but the leadership, not just for the Republican Party, but for the American people, that he builds, encourages, strengthens, and makes ready for that day when he steps off of, Air Force Two or whatever they call it when you leave for the last time and goes back to playing golf. Will Vance be ready in 4 years? Can't say.
Yeah.
Is Trump building him to where he will be ready? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Those are my thoughts on it.
I think they're good thoughts. The more I learn about him, the more I like him. I listened to his interview on Joe Rogan. Did you listen to that
Mhm.
one? That was pretty good.
Yeah, it was real.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was real. He's a Marine.
Yeah.
Let him be a Marine. He's a Marine.
It's
Um,
okay.
but he's smart enough and brings enough to the table that he knows how to be appropriate business acumen and that kind of stuff. But a lot of men have fire
Mm-hmm.
and ganas. You've heard me talk about
Oh
that
yeah, the
a lot.
gunners.
but they don't have the depth of character to know how to handle it.
Mm,
Go
that's
ahead
an
and ask me.
what is, can you expound on
What do I
that?
mean?
Yeah.
There are people that have the business savvy and they have the love of country and they have all kinds of stuff, but they do not have the depth of character to bring it all together and harness it appropriately. Donald Trump does. All right. Now is not the moment to thump you, Schumer, but that day's coming. Now is not the moment to open the Epstein files and blow all of your lives apart, but it's coming. And that's not why I'm in the presidency,
Right.
but it's a part of being a president. We need people of that stature of wisdom. And there are some things that get handled that the public doesn't find out about. Well, that's not transparency. It has nothing to do with transparency. There are conversations that phenomenal parents have about bills that they don't know how they're going to pay, about medical situations that scare them to death. But you don't let your 7, 8, and 9-year-old kids hear those conversations or see that.
Yeah.
You let them know that we can't afford to go get ice cream this week. Oh, that's not fair. That's not right. Blah, blah, blah. Hey, I love you. I will die for you. But I can't get you ice cream this week. And you're just going to have to deal with that in your own little mind at the moment. You don't go into the whole thing of, you know, the bank foreclosed on my business because I'm a conservative, pro-life person. And Bank of America just debanked us, and blah blah came in and took our business. As you get older, Dad, why did that happen 7 years ago? Not quite time to tell you, but I will say this. You know why I had you go out and rake leaves for Mr. Thompson and shovel snow for, blah, 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 to go buy your own gym stuff? Because you're tight one? No, no, because you've got to know the value of a dollar.
Mhm.
And then when he's 23 and he gets married, Dad, you don't have to tell me, but, and then the dad finishes the sentence and says, when you were 7 years old, why did that take place or what happened? Okay. And then you tell him.
Yeah.
Level specific, maturation specific, or appropriate, not specific, information.
Hmm.
The American public is not a dummy. All right. People are smart. Crowds are stupid.
Yeah.
Okay. So there are people at different levels of maturation and wisdom and experience that they understand various levels. I understand certain levels that are a lot more than some others because I'm so smart. No, I've been there. Do I know everything that he knows? Heck no. Do I want to know everything he knows? No. No. If he needs somebody to share the burden of that knowledge, call me, President, Mr. President, call me.
Hmm.
2 a.m. I don't care. And I give you my word, I won't tell a soul. But sometimes you need to share a burden. But unless or until he needs my help, which he doesn't, I'm perfectly fine with him knowing things I don't know. That doesn't mean he's not transparent. That means he cares about us as a nation, as individual citizens, enough not to burden us with things that would blow the whole thing up in our hearts and our minds before we are ready for it.
Hmm.
It's been 62 years, okay? 61 years. Um, no, almost 62 since they murdered JFK.
Yeah.
Okay. I was 3 years old. I've known or had suspicions about who was involved for 30 years. For 30 years, I didn't care.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just something that happened when I was a kid. I was a part of history, but no big deal. For about 30 years, I've had various levels of interest and all of that. It doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter to my success as a human being. And I already know that the alphabet groups are godless, vicious, anti-American, and useless for our growth as citizens.
Hmm.
If they just did their job, they'd be fine, but they can never just do their job because that much power, that much knowledge makes beasts out of almost every man.
Yeah. Hmm.
So you're saying we can't blame them? It's not a matter of blame. If it's within the statute of limitations and they're still influencing for that evil, deal with them. But is my life ruined to find out that the CIA had full knowledge of, if not full control of what happened? No. But for others, it will blow their minds.
Yeah.
So, anyway,
Well, no, that's well said because, yeah, the idea of releasing a file like that, you're not going to bring him back to life, but you may prevent another life being taken that way. Because if you're able to uncover why it happened, then you can essentially address the issue to keep it from happening again or
and it
something
will
similar.
if it's not brought out now.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah.
Butler, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Now, the one where he was hiding in the bushes all day at outside the golf course. Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
But the one in Butler, that was 100% inside job.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But the common sense of understanding that and knowing that there's still people, you know, it's rough finding out that your dad was a womanizer or your mom was loose as a goose. That's
Mm.
hard.
Yeah.
And 7 year olds shouldn't have to even know that.
Nope.
That's their mom. That's their dad. Leave that alone for a while.
Yeah.
But as they get older and they start getting into the age of preparing to be a mate and looking for a mate, they need to know some things to watch out for.
Hmm.
And it's not uncomfortable to find out. It is uncomfortable to find out how you know, dad, or how you know, mom. How do you know that's not a good thing? Oh boy, we need to have a talk.
Yeah.
But not when they're 14, not when they're 7.
No. Yeah.
So
Mm. Yeah, it's really interesting. Um, it seems almost unreal. You know
what?
that Trump's president because we've had 4 years of so much stuff that's happened, and we're just, as you said, we were trying to fight but getting buried alive, and then now he is back, and you're like, wait a minute, is he actually like? He is there. I know that he's there, but it's just you're so used to your enemy being at the top right now, you're like, okay, so how do we transition into actually fighting the fight that Trump's allowed us to actually fight now? Like, how do we be good soldiers to continue on what he's helping us get started, you know? Just some,
Honesty,
yeah.
integrity, um, honest kindness, and not
Mhm.
fake niceness.
Yeah.
All
Big
right.
difference. Yeah.
It's just like that thing that stood up in the pulpit at the National Cathedral. She was soft spoken,
Oh, that lady.
caring in manner. It was so. Oh, See, that's that phony ass niceness. All right.
Yeah.
Baptists use it. Catholics use it. Church of Christers use it. Methodists use it. Quit. Be real. If you're a soft spoken person, be a soft spoken person, but deal honestly with folks.
Hmm.
And if somebody needs to have the shit knocked out of them, knock it out of them.
Yeah.
Don't be phony anymore. Not that everybody has been, but don't be phony.
Yeah.
Be kind to folks, even on the other side, not to the sacrifice of one single subatomic molecule of what you know is right. That's what got us in this mess in the first place.
Yeah.
You know, the old Arab proverb is right. Once the camel gets his nose under the edge of the tent, it's over with.
It's a
That's
good.
not how the Arabs said it, but that's what it
Yeah.
means. Because, they had favorite camels, all right, that you didn't want stolen. So when they bed down at night, they would stake him or her right next to the tent and they would talk. You say, well, that's weird. People do it with their dogs and cats.
All the time.
Okay, so why can't a Bedouin do it with his goat or his camel? But that camel, well, I'm special, so I'm gonna come in and see you. Once that big old girl gets her head underneath there, you're done. That tent's coming down.
Hmm.
Well, we did that with evil, and we do that with evil. Well, I don't want to cause a fuss, so I'm going to go ahead and let the LGBTQTABCDVF, whatever, you know, say this without responding to it in front of my child. Now, if they want to do it in their house with their friends, fine, have at it. Not saying it's right, but it is a right. But you come in the public square and you say that we have to allow this, we have to do that, screw your ass. Well, you'll get fired, so fire my ass. That's wrong.
Hmm.
And we stopped doing that. We stopped standing up.
Yeah.
We go against the enemies it's safe to go against.
No,
And
with the
I'm talking
drug.
about with our fellows.
Yeah.
We go against the enemy that is safe to go against. In World War II, it was the Krauts and the Japs. Now, you don't talk about Krauts and Japs the way you used to. And rightly so, because this current generation did nothing to us.
Hmm.
But my point is, there's things within the borders of our country and the boundaries of our influence that are being very loud still. And
Yes.
it's not time to stand nose to nose, face to face, and yell back at them and cuss them out. But it is time to stand up and say that is wrong.
Hmm.
How dare you? Easy. It's wrong.
Yeah.
Well, that's not popular. No, but it's the right thing to do at the moment.
Yeah.
That's what we need to be as a nation.
Yeah. Call it as it is.
Call it what it is.
Yeah.
Don't point it as it walks by and isn't bothering you and saying, that's a whatever. That's that's useless and gutless. But
Yeah.
when it's coming at you and it's saying you've got to bow, to the God of my thinking, no, I don't. And no, I
Yeah.
won't. And
Hmm.
you're not going to get away with it in front of these kids,
Nope.
not unanswered.
Hmm.
So there's all that. This one's not going to make any sense. You're going to watch this and go, this makes no sense.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty good.
Um, you know what I would like to do?
Yeah.
I would like to do a weekly Bible related 20, 30-minute thing where, you know, hey, Chip, what about Nehemiah? Hey, Chip, what about Daniel? Hey, Chip, what about Jonah? Hey, Chip, what about, and go through, all right, and to the best of my ability, share with you and the audience where they were as human beings, where they fit in the scheme of God's plan, both then and long term, and how it relates to us for our good.
That'd be fun.
You think?
Yeah, we can make that work. I think I got 20
I
minutes.
mean, you could even create a whole new channel.
Oh, that's not a bad idea. We should chat.
That's what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
Remember, you got this part of the video off.
Oh yeah.
By the way, does this look good?
I like it. Yeah. Is that like an
Yeah.
office or?
This is my shop.
Oh, okay.
It's a 24 by 32. You see my bed there?
Yeah.
That is 140 years old.
Wow.
The chair I'm sitting in right now is 101 years old.
Wow.
The asset sitting in it is 64, almost 65 years old. Um, yeah, I've got recurs and longbows up along that wall. I've got a bobcat that I got 30 years ago, uh, a little buck that actually was the impetus for the doorway buck.
Hmm.
I've got a ram that I got with Staff Sergeant Russ Claggett, who was one of the top shooters uh, during the Iraq War. You can see that turkey behind me.
Oh yeah. Hmm.
Um, his poult mate from 2 years before that I got is right there. He was the second largest bird shot in Arkansas that year. I used to guide turkey hunts and everything.
Pretty cool.
But yeah, I would really love to do that.
Yeah. We should try it.
Musings from the Man Cave, because that's what this is.
Ooh, that's a good name. That's a good name. Yeah. Let's do it as a new channel then.
Yeah. And, you know, it's just like I told you about Hebrews 11 and 12. Remember?
Uh,
And what more shall I say? I don't have time to tell you about David, Jephthah, Samson, Barak, Samuel, and the prophets who through faith conquered kingdoms, administered justice, routed foreign armies. You know, we give all that and we're like, yeah, that's Hall of Winners. Yeah, that's a Hall of Faith. Yeah, that's, and then without even taking a breath goes into, and others refused to be released so that they might gain a better resurrection. They were tortured. They, were killed by the sword. They were sawn in two. They walked about destitute, naked, living in caves and holes in the ground. What? Who did? All the winners. God doesn't differentiate winners the way that we do. For us, winners are those that are successful financially, have physically beautiful wives, that have eyes for nobody but us, blah, 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 blah. All their kids are healthy and all that kind of stuff. And God's winners are those that surrender, no matter what it seems to cost,
mhm,
because he never lied, never shirked. He said it will cost you everything.
mhm.
I may collect and I may not, but will you surrender it? Anyway, you go through the end of that.
Yeah.
All of these, who did? The Davids, the Samuels, the Samsons, the Moseses, the Noahs. and the widow that you never knew her name, and her story is not written particularly in the Old Testament, but God saw her just as clearly, loved her just as dearly as he did David.
Hmm.
That's destitute, living in caves and holes in the ground. None of these received what had been promised, for God had something better in store for us, so that only with us would they be made perfect or complete. End of chapter 11. Chapter 12, verse 1. Therefore, and what is therefore? In other words, I've just shown you what you need to focus on. You got it in your head? Yeah, okay. Therefore, let us lay aside everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. David's race took him from a shepherd to a slayer to a king to a killer to a broken master surrenderer to God. Noah's race took him from, you're still out there building that what'd you call it, a boat? What, rain? What is rain? To one of only 8 saved. And continuing the lineage of mankind into this. Samuel's race took him this way. Daniel's race took him this way. But they were all going the same direction. They're going in totally different ways, but they're going in the same direction. How is that possible, Tom?
Uh, all surrendering to the same Lord.
That's the direction. That's it.
Yeah.
And we are winners not because of what we witness, what we sense, what we feel, what we experience, or what we have or don't have. We are winners because he said, I love you. I want you. Do
Hmm.
you believe me? And we say, yes. That's it. You're in. What? 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 Yeah, that's incredible.
It really is. It's neat to see. It's neat to see God's personality through his stories with mankind, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Think about all the. It was kind of like, um, it's kind of a bit of a tangent, but it's like watching
Yep.
movies. You try to understand situations, characters, problems, and the movie is these people with this problem with the solution, or not solution, whatever the story is. But then in the Bible, essentially, that's what it is. It's just the written stories of mankind and how they've either worked or not worked with God. And you get to see more and more of God's personality with more and more people in that context. And so it's neat. You get to see kind of like, which is the intention, trying to understand who God is, and so that you are drawn to Him, so that you can then eventually be with Him forever if you follow Him.
Yeah.
This is me just spatting out thoughts.
No, no. You got a good mind. After 2.5, 3 years, something like that, and within the last week of his life, Jesus is talking with his apostles. And this is when he says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. You know, I'm the door, I'm the gate, I'm the good shepherd. And Thomas speaks up for the rest of them and he goes, show us the Father, and that will suffice. And Jesus goes, have I been with you so long, Thomas, and you don't get it? If you've seen me, you've seen the Father. The way I think, what I get mad at, what breaks my heart, what makes me stop when everybody wants me to go, what makes me smile when everybody else is like, oh, that's embarrassing. What makes me speak up when everybody thinks, shh, 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 shh. Just don't say nothing. That's how my Father thinks and speaks and acts and feels. The way that God built us as human beings, we go through a period of abject, utter, and complete trust and adoration of our parents.
Mhm.
And for the most part, rightly so. Our dads are our heroes, our supermen. Then, about puberty, for a lot of us, is where the confusion sets in. That's not the rage point, that's the confusion point. Wait, my dad doesn't walk on water? My dad isn't honest 1,000 billion trillion time, the percent of the time. My dad can't do everything. Then, for too many of us, we go through the stupid old man. He don't know what he's talking about. Can't wait to get out of here. Do what I want. I know more than he does. And then our own period of time in the wilderness. And then our own period of time in the pig pen. And I'm talking about at the mind. We may never leave church. We may never screw around with, every woman we can spend time with at the bar or whatever. But our own thinking is not gaining us any ground.
Mhm.
Our own thinking is we're going broke. We're starving to death with our own. That stupid old man didn't know what he's talking about. I know what I'm doing. And that moment of realization, the Bible says he came to himself. And the lucky of us, sometimes it's 25, sometimes it's 28, sometimes it's 35. We come to ourselves. Well, I'll be. That's why he didn't let me lick the electrical stuff, you know. Well, I'll be. He was right. McGovern would have made a terrible president, you know. And then, if we're fortunate, and so many of us weren't, our parents died before we got a chance to. And there's vicious, wicked, nasty, useless drunks and druggies and incestuous, pedophilic pieces of shit. They exist. But for the vast majority, you just had good people that were doing the best they knew.
Yeah.
To whatever level of intelligence and experience that they had, they did the best they could with what they had. And
Mhm.
that's all you can ask of anybody.
Mhm.
Some were smarter, some had more money, some had this or that made the transition smoother or the path nicer. But if your dad only had a seventh grade education and he busted his ass in a coal mine of West Virginia and still makes it to your dadgum junior high basketball games fresh out of the mine, covered in coal dust, you rich, kid. You rich, because a lot of them that don't have to do that at all never showed up for the games.
Yeah.
But we have that moment where, if we're fortunate and they're still alive, we do come back, just like the prodigal. They don't always respond the way that the one in the Bible does, run to us and embrace us and, let us not even let us give our little speech. They stand there at the front door. You run out of money again? You know,
Yep.
I guess I'll feed you tonight. Now they're dying inside. They love you to death and they want you around, but they're still a little mad that you said what you said and did what you did and didn't do what you didn't do when you were 18 or 22 or whatever. There's going to be a lot of people in this country that have followed the darkness, that have bowed the knee to the evil one, that are going to wake up. They're going to come to themselves.
Yeah.
My prayer and my determination is to be a part of the non shoot them in the head as they come up the path crew, at least. Does that make sense to you?
That makes a lot of sense.
Because when you come to yourself and you go back and all they do is spit on you, you're like, you know what? I'd rather eat the slop with the pigs than put up with this shit.
Yep.
And that's where the next generation of darkness comes in.
Yeah.
So those that come to their senses and come back, don't put them through 3 degrees or 7 degrees or 10 degrees of, you got to prove you're conservative. They may not be as conservative as you. There may be some other things they still hold on to.
Hmm.
But if they finally come to the realization that what they said on CNN was a lie, and what yay, Biden or whatever, man, I'm embarrassed. Yeah, we've all been there with different things.
Oh yeah.
Find the common ground
Hmm.
because that's where the seed of their new awareness can actually be planted and grow into something beautiful. Common ground. But if you keep driving them out into the streets, that seed will fall by the wayside into a ditch somewhere and grow up with all the weeds, and you're going to have a hellish mess one more generation down the road.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's all I got.
That's good. Well, thanks for chatting, Chip. It's always good to hear your thoughts about things. I'm always grateful. So, yeah, well, I have to start up musings in the man cave, and that'll be fun.
Musings from the man cave. How about that?
That sounds better. Yeah.
You know,
Alrighty.
but I really would like to do that if you
Yeah.
want.
Story of Joseph today, even that 5 minutes would be, I think, very worthwhile to share, because usually you hear the stories in the one version that the Bible says it in. And when you elaborate on it, then people start to see a lot more meaning behind it. And I think that's where people see the power of those stories more. And then they contemplate on them, they think about them, and then they can bring those to prayer or influence their own lives.
Do you know the story of Jephthah, real quick?
I don't think so.
Well, he's listed in Hebrews 11 as part of the Hall of Faith. All right. The writer of Hebrews lists him as faithful. Jephthah is the one that did not get along with his family.
Hmm.
His tribe did not like him. He was probably a lot like me. Screw you people, that kind of stuff. But when it came time, it was during the time of the judges. When it came time for them to be delivered again, the Lord appeared to Jephthah. And the angel of the Lord said, need you to go take care of this, blah, blah, blah. And Jephthah said, if this is really true, because see, nobody, no man wanted him. His fellows did not want him leading. It's hard to lead people that don't want you to lead. It's hard to want to lead people that don't want you to lead. And he didn't. He was fine. He lived off in the country. Nobody was bothering him and his family. So screw the rest of you. God said, I need you to lead them. I need you to go take care of this foreign army. And he said, if you really want me to be the one to do that, then blah, blah, blah. They get there and he says, because the other people still didn't want him. All right.
Hmm.
And he says, if you will give me victory in this, I will sacrifice the first thing that comes out the door of my house.
Oh,
God gave the victory, which he would have given anyway. And he goes back. His daughter, that he loved more than life itself, heard him coming, opened the door, and ran out to meet him. He kept that oath. Now, there are some quote unquote Bible quote unquote scholars. Well, no. See, he made a substitute sacrifice because God would never, you don't do human sacrifice. Two things you're missing, dude. God told Abraham to go offer Isaac. Now, we know the rest of the story, so to speak, that God had a ram set aside, but he told Abraham to offer Isaac. And he did offer his own son. Now, was he or was he not human? So don't tell me God does not do human sacrifice. Jephthah kept his word. When God gives you a mission, quit asking him for. You
proof.
don't have to offer up to God anything but surrender.
Yeah.
All right? Don't make that mistake. If God tells you to do something, surrender to it. And when he gives you victory or you're brought to your Goliath or whatever, don't make promises. Just get on with it because God's
Yeah.
already made it possible.
Hmm.
Anyway, that's a darker, deeper one for another day with a lot more behind it.
Yeah, that is.
You didn't know that?
I now that you told me the story, I remember it. I just didn't know the guy's name. But yeah, that's a hard one.
And his daughter was of such character, such integrity. Then when she saw him bawling, she goes, "What is it?" He goes, "Oh, I wish to God that anything else would have come out." And she goes, "Why?" And he told her. And she said, "Give me 7 days or 30, I don't remember. Give me some time with my friends to prepare myself." And then she willingly offered herself up. She surrendered,
Mm.
and they both paid the price.
Yeah, that's something to be said as rash oaths or rash promises are very bad. Very bad.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
I mean, I don't know if you knew that, like Martin Luther, when he, not Martin Luther. Wait, was his name Martin Luther? The 1500s guy?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay. Um, he became a priest because he told God if he survived through a thunderstorm, he'd become a priest.
Yep.
Probably wasn't the best idea.
But it started him on a path that, a lot of people are thankfully wound up on.
Fair, but
He
maybe,
was an agnostic beer lover.
yeah.
And he continued to love his beer right to the last day.
Yeah,
And he spoke honestly, let's say. He could cuss in German really good
true, true.
and did.
Yeah, I just might have missed a few points along the way.
We all do.
Yeah. But it seems like I think yeah, it's kind of like the story with Jacob and Esau, where Esau gives up his birth blessing for porridge, and it's
Yeah.
like it's giving up your future for the present. It's like the inversion. God always wants us
Yeah.
to give up the present for the future, you know?
Yep.
That's like the inversion the devil always works us in. So It's like with Martin Luther, like, oh, that might not have been the right thing to say. Like, maybe
Yep.
just pray for safety, but don't say in awe or like with Jephthah, it's like don't ask for the grace to conquer whatever battle you need to conquer, but don't because I don't think God's the one that needs the terms, your terms. He's asking you to work on his terms. You don't have to give up your own terms, or give him your own terms. So